Hello everybody and welcome to Tiger Tells the Lost Stories, a place you'll find stories and fanfictions written and read to you by your host, me, Ty Tiger. Today we're diving back into the Colour Matrix. The Colour Matrix is a storyline where I have a man called Ace diving and using a machine called the Colour Matrix, which is a machine that allows Ace to live out 8 hours of his actual physical time in the body of alternate versions of himself. So to shorten that down, think of James Cameron's Avatar and Sword Art Online, where they plug themselves in and their conscience goes to another body, that but on a multiversal level. In the last couple chapters, Ace has gone and ventured through the Naruto multiverse and delved into different versions of himself in there. And because of the rules, he's allowed to do one more chance. So this is his one more chance to dive into a Naruto universe in a cluster of multiverses that he found, just for now anyway. So, let's dive in. The Colour Matrix, World 7, a child between two villages. I did not sleep the night before. The idea that my existence changed the whole trajectory of worlds changed me. The path it was supposed to take, it was daunting that things could possibly lay on my shoulders, and the sad thing was, it wasn't actually me. I was looking through another version of me. Its eyes were just binoculars for me. They had to do it, not me. I just felt their weight on my shoulders, I guess.
Sir, it is time we picked a universe,
Daisy told me. I nodded with a sigh, and I sat at the console, scrolling through the universes, but the cluster of universes hung together still hung there waiting for me. I scanned the universes. I had already done 2 of them, so I shrugged my shoulders and I picked another one within the cluster. It was my last chance to explore this multiverse for a while.
Sir, this time round, your person here lives in the time period set before the other 2 universes you've explored in this multiverse, where clans from the Hidden Leaf and the Hidden Sand villages are at war. Your parents hail from both clans, and you live in the Sand Village with your mother. But your father's identity is hidden from the others. From the Hidden Leaf Village remains a secret to some. Plus, you are younger, only being 12 years old.
Daisy explained. That was a lot of detail there, Dee, I replied.
I am just trying to lighten the mood, sir.
Daisy noted. Fair. Alright, Dee, load it up, I told her. Daisy loaded the universe into the Matrix. I took off my shirt, laid down on the bed, and the needles penetrated my neck and fingertips. I then drifted off into darkness as Daisy read me my vital signs. I woke up to hear barking and whimpering. I climbed out of bed and ran across the room to a rug I'd removed it to reveal a hutch door. I opened it and my puppy, Samimaru, jumped out of the secret underground compartment, barking with joy. Shush, Samimaru, someone's gonna hear you. Mother cannot find out that you'll heal, I told him. The pup whined at me again, lay down with his head on the cold wooden floor. Sorry, I sighed. I stroked his head, I looked out the window and saw the sun quite high up. Ah, damn, I'm gonna be late, I yelled. I got dressed rather fast and grabbed Samimaru, and ran out of the room. We bolted into my art studio where my newest picture stood. I rolled the paper up and ran to my puppet, which was hidden in a summoning jutsu scroll, and I tied my painting to the scroll, then strapped both to my back, as Samimaru sat on the door waiting for me. I then strapped on my ninja headband to my head, and ran out the door with Samimaru bouncing alongside me. We ran out of the Hidden Sand village, making sure that no one saw us sneaking out. We ran down the path. Eventually we came in contact with some trees. Both me and the dog jumped up and started bouncing between the tree branches, clearing more distance in a shorter time frame. Then finally we landed on the ground, and stood there waiting for me was my dad. Father, I called out with a grin on my face. Ace, you made it, my father cheered. He ran up to me and hugged me. He then knelt down and said hello to Samimaru, stroking him and giving him something to snack on. He then stood and smiled at me. His face had 2 blue paint markings on his cheeks in the shape of fangs. On his head was the headband with the symbol of the Hidden Leaf Village. So, did you paint over the last few days? Father asked me as we sat down next to the little stream, Samimaru running through the water having some fun. Yeah, I did, I replied. I detached the painting from my scroll and unrolled it and showed it to my father. Wow, this is amazing, my father gasped. My father always was impressed by my art skills. He often asked me to paint certain things to test my art skills out. Things like Samimaru And this time, it was the Sam village from the highest point of the village, like a bird's eye view. It was difficult, but I managed to get it done. My father sat there with a big grin on his face. He rolled up my painting and placed it between us. How are things at home? Father asked. Yeah, it's good. I get my team soon, so I'm excited about that, I told him. You don't sound excited, my father replied. I won't get any missions. I'm still really young. I'm only 12. And between the leaf and the stand fighting each other, they don't give any young ones missions anymore, I muttered. My father sighed. I know, kid. I know, my father said as he wrapped one arm around me and then let his head on mine. Seems like I'll have to tell Anna that her pup is doing good, father said. Anna, being his own dog, his clan grew up and raised dogs. Ninjas born within the clan used their dog partners and techniques to fight others. I bet she's gotten big now, I replied. Father nodded in response. Hey, I'm going to keep this, okay? So I've got something to look at until next time I see you again, my father said, picking up the painting. Really? I asked. If you're okay with it, he asked back. Yeah, sure, I said. Then my father strapped my rolled-up painting to his back. It's time for us to leave, I'm afraid. We have both been gone a bit long, my father stated. Yeah, I nodded. I whistled a sharp whistle which made Samimaru come running up to me. I said goodbye to my father, who also said goodbye to Samimaru as well. Then we both parted ways. I headed back home and sneaking myself into the village, making sure no one saw Samimaru as we walked into our house. My mother had not returned from her several day-long mission yet, so we got some food and we went to bed. I woke up to a massive explosion that shook the ground. I instantly jumped out of bed, hung my head out the window, looking up to see several on-blue ninja stood on some of the walls farther down. They wore animal-shaped masks, which symbolized the Hidden Leaf Village. We were under attack. I jumped back into my house and got dressed, grabbing my scroll, and suddenly Samimaru sat there and whined at me. Sorry, bud, you gotta stay hidden. We have not mastered the Fang technique just yet, I told him. He once again laid down and sulked. I grabbed my ninja tools and ran out the house. Several other ninja had started engaging the Onbu attackers. Some of the civilians were trying to run away. One of the Onbu weaved several hand signs together, then slammed his hands on the wall where he stood on. And suddenly big pillars of wood exploded from the ground and formed into cages, capturing people. I pulled my scroll off my back, my mind trying to convince me to run around and hide, or try to find my sensei, or an adult at least, but I decided the best way for me to help is how I knew how, and that was to fight. I placed the scroll on the ground and unrolled it. I bit my finger and wiped the blood that seeped from my new cut across the scroll, and then I weaved together 3 hand signs. Summoning Jutsu! I barked and slammed my hand on the scroll in a puff of white smoke. My puppet stood there before me. It looked like a wooden scarecrow. I give you my mastery, Desert Scarecrow! I barked. Then my chakra strings extended from my fingertips and attached themselves to the puppet. I made the puppet move by flexing my fingertips. I lashed my arms around and made my fingers flex. And the puppet jumped around, its mouth opened up and shot poison bombs which hit the wall where the Onbu stood, exploding into purple clouds of poison. The Onbu jumped off the wall and threw several kunais at me. The puppet jumped back and landed in front of me, then the puppet's shoulder pads raised up and fired several kunais which countered the incoming fire. 2 of the Onbu landed beside me and threw out their fists and foot. I managed to block both attacks, but one of the Onbu managed to hit me in the back of the neck, then knee me in the stomach, knocking the wind out of me. I dropped to my knees, and then the second Onbu swung his foot and kicked me in the head, which sent me flying back. I skimmed off the ground like I was a pebble hitting water until I landed abruptly into a rock. I grunted as I tried to stand, but then suddenly I could hear barking. Samimaru came running up to me. Get back! I muttered. Samimaru ignored my command, jumped up, tackled one of the Onbu, and knocked his mask clean off his face. I laid there on the ground in shock. The person under the mask looked me dead in the eye, and tears filled my eyes as I stared at my father. Samimaru came running up to me as I stood up. The other Onbu started fighting other ninjas as my surroundings were now filled with ninjas that came from our village that have eventually now finally joining the fight. As they started joining in, I looked at my father in shock. I was completely stunned. Ace, let me explain, my father said. No. How did you know how to get here? Without... Oh my lord. My painting! You used my painting! You wanted me to paint from the highest point, a bird's eye view. You used it as a map. You used me! I cried out. Yes, I did, and I'm sorry. The villagers need to be stopped. They need to stop fighting, and your mother's not here now. I made sure to time it correctly. I plan on taking out this village's leaders, and when your mother returns, we can be together, my father explained, taking a step closer to me. No. She would never, I growled. Son, please, my father pleaded. You have no son, I growled. Then I reattached my chakra strings to the desert scarecrow puppet, and I flicked my wrist a few times, and my puppet's legs clicked together into one another. Then its arms raised to its sides. Then Samimaru ran over to me. Ready, boy? I said, and the dog barked. Transformation Jutsu! I barked, forming a few hand signs, and Samimaru transformed into a clone of me. Then, Samimaru cloned as me, jumped into the air, and I yanked the puppet into the air with us. Then, with a flick of my wrist, the puppet started spinning around and around, picking up immense speeds, rotating at a dangerous, violent speed. Then me and Samimaru both started rotating as well. All three of us became vacuum chakra drills. Fang over fang! Triple threat collision! I roared. All three rotations crashed into the ground, and the ground exploded, erupted into rubble. The shockwave decimated close-by buildings. The Ombu was knocked off their feet, as well as the ninja from the sand village. I opened my eyes and turned my head. Everything around me was in ruins. Samimaru laid next to me. He had reverted back to his little puppy form. The puppet had been broken into pieces due to the fast and hard-hitting impact. I tried to move, but everything hurt. My chakra levels must have been depleted to almost nothing. That jutsu took a lot out of me. I tried to keep my eyes open, but they were forced closed, and then everything went dark. I woke up and the needles extracted from my body, and I climbed out of bed. Oh, that was interesting, I muttered.
Might I ask what you mean?
Daisy asked me, being a 12-year-old again, and being insanely angry. It came so sudden, I explained.
It happened, sir. On that note, I'd like to inform you that in that universe, you're there for 18 hours and 44 minutes.
Daisy told me. Well, that's good to know, I guess, I said. I sat down on my bed and activated the holoscreen and entered my findings into a message to Sparks. I found it very strange being young again. It was odd. It felt kind of nice though, reminded me of my youth. I sat there and thought about the idea that the whole thing had its ups and downs, and that the universe I just explored shared both of them. It was an interesting thought for sure. And there we have it, guys. Another installment to the Color Matrix story. Now, of course, if you guys want to see more Color Matrix chapters, there are plenty on the channel, but also check out Tiger Tail's Game Over. There is a YouTube channel where more fan fictions and stories, but they all revolve around video games. And I have the exactly same story, it's canon to this one, where Ace goes into worlds that revolve around video games. But I call them data worlds, and he needs a specific data drive to be plugged into the Color Matrix to activate them. So you can check out more Color Matrix stories on that channel as well. A huge shout out to A Crown on TikTok and his YouTube channel, The Author's Crown, where he's uploading his own stories. A huge shout out to him because he's been helping me with the chapters of the Color Matrix, its context, and the stories all together. So a big shout out to him. Make sure you check out the rest of the Tiger Tales channels. Tiger Tales Game Over, and Tiger Tales Mysterious Origins. The last one there that I mentioned revolves around all my original content and it's all original stories, but the other two definitely have more fanfiction stories for you to check out. Then check out Tiger Tales X, a Tiger Tales channel where I have crossed over multiple different storylines. So, for example, Ben 10 Alien Force and Doctor Who crossed over. No OCs or original stories there, it's just fan-made crossovers. A huge shout out to the Zero to Hero podcast, If You Give a Dad a podcast, and the Tiger Nexus podcast. 3 podcasts that I recommend for everybody to go listen to. Some fun interviews with fun guests, and yeah, they're just all a blast. Thank you everybody for listening, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and I shall see you guys real soon.
That before we can...
Don't touch my Pringles.